There are 5 things to consider when looking at the Airbnb industry to decide if it's the right time to get in to do short-term rentals. First is the economy. Second, housing market. Third, rental market. Similar but different. Fourth is Airbnb's brand as a whole, sentiment. And fifth is the host landscape and how competitive it is. Let's look at all 5, starting with the economy. The truth is that starting a business is tough in any economy, but it gets more tough in a tough economy. But there is a pro and a con to that. Of course, the con is the harder it is to get started, the harder it is to succeed. Money is expensive right now. That affects more than just the housing market. Getting debt for your business can be tough. Getting customers to pay for stuff can be tough. And Airbnb is not just real estate. Airbnb is the hospitality industry. You have to win on 2 fronts. If you buy a property, you have to win on the real estate side and then make it work on the hospitality side. There are other ways to do Airbnb that does not include buying real estate. That's why it's a separate topic altogether. What we need to consider, we have to ask the hypothetical question, if the economy continues to melt down and we see a significant drawdown in the stock market, in jobs, in people's cash balances, how will they behave with their money? What will they spend their money on? Airbnb is an absolute coin flip here, and here's why. Airbnb is not typically a necessary expense. It's a vacation usually. And further, when it's not a vacation and a business expense, when money gets tight, businesses will start to slow down expensive activities like sending employees places, prospecting, doing sales where people have to go stay in Airbnbs or hotels. But on the flip side, when economic times are stressful, people spend more money on creature comforts or escapism. Alcohol consumption and gambling goes up. People may decide to get out of the house and spend their money on a staycation, to just disappear for a little while. That can lead money to hotels and Airbnb. Further, there are industries that do better when the market gets tough. Let's say people have to downsize or move out of their homes. Owning a public storage could be a great hedge for this. If the economy gets tough and people get forced to move out of their homes, they put their stuff in storage that they do not want to get rid of, but they have to let go of a home. They have to sell or they get evicted, and they'll need a temporary place to stay while they figure it out. It would be responsible for them to stay somewhere furnished for a month or 2 while their stuff is in storage and they figure out whether or not they're going to sell their stuff or they're going to move somewhere else. I think in a hard economy, Airbnbs will do good as midterm rentals as a solution for people who do not know what they're going to do. I just helped a guest check in yesterday who got scammed here in Dallas. This gentleman, his wife, and his kids saved up to buy a property. They went to go buy a property without a real estate agent from some guy who scammed them online out of some earnest money to buy this property. They had moved out of their previously furnished apartment with their saved up money to go buy a property, owner finance, rent to own, something like that. I haven't got the whole story there. But when they arrived to get the keys, the guy never showed up. The property wasn't even his. That gentleman got $5,000 out of that family. And what that guy did was book my place at about noon or 1 p.m. asking for an early check-in. He was our very first guest at this new property. And he told me his story when he arrived because I happened to be there finishing up some things. Those things you can see in this video. It's like a vlog format of how my day was like. It's pretty fun. But to digress, there are people who will need housing and accommodations when the going gets tough. And if they're families, they'll need the square footage, which means hotels are going to be a terrible option. They'll also need kitchens so they can cook because they're on a budget. And hotels, you don't get that option either. It's going to be hard to prepare food for a family. So economically, it is truly a coin flip. You'll see less leisurely travel, long distances. You'll see more use of necessary furnished monthly apartments, and you might see a little bit of escapism. I think we're still in a value shift since COVID, where people are no longer valuing possessions, but experiences and travel. They were told to stay home, and they're done playing video games. They want to get out of the house, and they want to go somewhere. So if I can give you a pro tip about the economy, your property needs to go ready to go lean and go monthly in a downturn. You can adapt. You can make money while the getting is good. Just be prepared to adapt if that changes. Next, the housing market. Number 2, this is a toughie, guys. Home prices are expensive. Mortgage rates are expensive. They're saying that the housing market is crashing up. And how this happens is people are choosing not to sell their homes. It's just they don't think it's a good time to sell. If they sold, they would likely have to buy another property or pay all those taxes on the property that they have. And because they don't want to do what's called a 1031 exchange into an 8% interest rate, they'd rather just hold their property and not experience a cash event which forces them to pay taxes. This is one of the reasons why home prices aren't coming back down. Home prices may also not come back down if we keep printing cash. Anytime that there's a crisis, whether it's war or famine, governments may print money. We printed a ton of money during COVID, and that's why home prices went up 40% in just a couple of years. If you bought a property today and did not pay cash, you're going to pay a king's ransom for that property. I would mark this housing market as one of the worst times to buy an Airbnb property that I've ever seen. Everything is just too expensive, and it's expensive to borrow. Here in Dallas, it's 50% cheaper, 50% cheaper to rent than it is to own. Not only should we consider single-family rentals, but also multifamily rentals as well. The rental market is softening. I'm seeing a lot of properties give 4 weeks or 8 weeks of rent for free because they need the occupancy. If a multifamily building cannot get full enough, they can default on their loan. There are multiple types of loans out there, and I'm not an expert in finance, but I know that there are loans that expire in a certain period of time where you have to hit a certain percentage of occupancy. Your rent roll has to get a certain amount of healthy. There are some loans that people are being forced to add collateral to that they cannot do so. So people are going to be forced to unwind their multifamily properties. So in that way, buying multifamily could be another topic, another thing I'm not an expert at. But we are here on this topic to talk about the rental market. And because people don't want to have to sell their multifamily properties, they will get creative to try to get them full. And lease concessions are how they're doing that. If you find a single family homeowner who has an empty property, maybe empty for 2 months or more, they will be nervous because they have to pay their mortgage. They don't want to have to sell that property. Selling will be hyper expensive because of that cash event. It would be cheaper to give you 2 months of rent for free to have you move into a single family home than for them to be forced to liquidate that property. Same thing happens in the multifamily. If you negotiated leases on either side, you can get free rent. This makes it a wonderful time to do rental arbitrage for Airbnb, because free rent on the front end allows you to get cash back faster. And on top of that, we can go back to number one, the economy. People don't have a lot of cash right now relative to its value. People may have cash, but that cash is worth less and less every year. There are failing Airbnb hosts. The best time for rental arbitrage with Airbnb. And what's more, number 5 is going to be really relevant if you plan on doing rental arbitrage, because there's something else you can do with that cash too. So stick to the end of the video. We're going to get to it. Number 4 has been a tricky one ever since COVID and ever since they went public. Airbnb has made decisions that have made guests upset, have made hosts upset. Naturally, that's going to happen. You can't make both sides happy. Both sides are in a way at war with each other because they don't have a direct relationship. Airbnb wants to say that this is true, and they're trying to wrangle it together, but what the issue is there are a lot of faceless hosts. Hosts that know that their guest is never going to come back, because the brand in the middle is Airbnb. A guest books through Airbnb, trusting Airbnb. They get a host, one that they don't know or care about. They have a good or a bad stay, and then they leave. If they have a bad stay, they might not use Airbnb ever again. If they have a good stay, they'll use Airbnb again, but not the same host. For some reason, right? Well, it makes sense, because if they travel, they may not be back in Cleveland or Boston ever again. It's hard to have repeat business with a hyper-local host. The only hosts that really get a strong advantage here are the hosts that are in multiple cities. There are companies like Sonder who have thousands and thousands of doors, or Stay Alfred who had 2,500 doors before they went out of business because of COVID. But those hosts have hundreds of doors in dozens of cities. And what they do is they capture that business and they try to take that business off the Airbnb platform, which is even worse for Airbnb. But there's a point here for you. Even though it's not a perfect idea to rely solely on Airbnb in 2024, the good news is you don't have to. As guests get more experience in short-term rentals, they start to realize there's Airbnb, and then there's Booking.com, and Google shows vacation rentals now, and there's Marriott Homes and Villas, and there's VRBO, probably Airbnb's biggest competitor or most relevant competitor today. And beyond all of that, there are direct bookings, like how Sonder will get you to stay in one of their hotel apartments, get you on their app, and then remarket to you through the app and through emails. Coupons all day. So for you, you can do Airbnb arbitrage or own or co-host. Let's talk about that in a second. But you won't rely only on Airbnb. So even though Airbnb's reputation isn't the best right now, Airbnb has brought a lot of customers into the fold, and they have since scattered to maybe their more preferential platform. The best Airbnb hosts are not only Airbnb hosts. They're on VRBO, Booking.com. They have a direct booking website. This is a key. Take notes on that, because if you start an Airbnb business in 2024, you will go what we call multi-channel. And it's not that hard, and a lot of hosts actually don't do it. If you look on the free version of AirDNA, it'll show you in any city how many listings are on Airbnb, how many are on VRBO, and how many are on both. This is one of my market research techniques. When I'm looking for cities that I can tell my students this is a safe city to go to, I'm looking for cities that they have a lot of Airbnb, but not both. The reason why is when an operator is on both, that means they understand this industry better. And if they understand this industry better, they become a stronger competitor, and stronger competitors are not people you want to compete against when you're new. That's one of the reasons why I won't recommend you start with a luxury property if you're brand new, unless you have experience as an architect, interior designer, or you've owned a hotel before. If you're brand new, start a little smaller because the amount of money that you have to put down is smaller, your monthly reoccurring expenses are smaller, and your competitors are going to be less good at this. If you went to Miami and did 6-bedroom homes, your competitors would crush you for the first 2 years of your operations because they're just that much better than you. And that segues perfectly into number 5, which is the competitive host landscape. Part of this answer is it depends on where you host. Miami versus Oklahoma. We've already given you that example. But my point from number 3 about cash and number 5 is that there are hosts that are quitting. And when hosts quit, they sell their stuff. They're selling their furniture. So if you get a landlord to give you 8 weeks of free rent, and then you find a host that is quitting that doesn't want to sell all of their furniture for half price, you could negotiate to pay them by the month for their furniture, small money down, monthly payments for a year, pay them almost full rate for their furniture, but over a year. You're going to do owner finance on their furniture. They'd rather do that and sell all of their stuff at nearly full price than to sell some of their stuff today at 50% off and then never sell the towels, never sell the silverware, never sell the coffee maker. There's some stuff that just won't sell. So instead of them getting $2,000 for the couch, the TV, the table, stuff like that, and everything else goes, they'll get $5,000 over a year. You can do that. But there still is the elephant in the room, which is the competitive landscape. There are more hosts. So there are more good hosts, which means that no matter what city or area or destination you go to, you need to do your market research, look at other hosts, and find the ones that are winning. You want to find hosts that are winning that aren't exactly good at this. If you wanted to dream build and go, I want to be a great host one day, look at all the best properties. The ones that have the hot tub and the flamingo in the pool and the gigantic chandeliers and the hundreds of 5-star reviews at $2,000 a night. If you want to dream build, look at those for inspiration. It's almost like creating your own little Pinterest wall. But when you get into a market, you want the average Joe who has no clue what art is or what design is, or even how to change their own prices on Airbnb. You want that basic guy, and you want to look at his calendar and find out if he's profitable. If he's profitable and you can beat him at his own game because he's not playing it well, that is how you know that you're going to be profitable on Airbnb in 2024, no matter where you go. Because in any industry, the bottom falls out. Just make sure you're not the bottom. If you want to learn how to do market research, watch this video next. It will take you there. Thank you so much for watching this video. Love you guys. And as always, I'll see you on the other side.